From our State House studio in Montgomery, I'm Todd Stacy. Welcome to Capitol Journal. Leading our news tonight, Governor Kay Ivey has signed into law legislation aimed at preventing suicide, especially among veterans, by promoting voluntary and temporary firearm storage. Senate Bill 40 from State Senator Keith Kelly and State Representative Russell Bedsole establishes firehold agreements between individuals and federal firearm licensees and creates a new program by which residents can voluntarily store guns and ammunition safely. Dubbed the Houston Hunter Act, the new law is named after Army veteran Houston Tolman and Marine veteran Hunter Whitley, both of whom lost their lives to suicide. Houston's mother, Michelle, and Hunter's mother, Shannon, were present there in the governor's office as the bill was signed into law. It's also one of 3 preliminary recommendations from the Alabama Veterans Mental Health Steering Committee. State lawmakers will return to Montgomery tomorrow as the legislature returns for the 18th legislative day. This is expected to be a 3-day week, meaning the House and Senate will gavel in for business on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, while also having a full committee slate on Wednesday. House Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter said the House will continue to have an ambitious agenda on the floor. In terms of the last third of the legislative session, he said his members are eager to get tax cut legislation to final passage and deliver more savings to Alabamians.
This quadrennium, if those tax bills pass, we have reduced taxpayers' taxes to the tune of $1.6 billion in this quadrennium alone, with over 15 different tax cuts. So to say that this body hadn't done their part would be an understatement, more than anybody has ever done in state history. So, but we got to do it in what I consider a fiscally conservative manner. And I believe we've done that. I applaud the budget chairs on both sides for that, and certainly Representative Garrett is somebody I respect immensely. That's his world. That's what he did for a living. And to have somebody like that over the ETF, we're very fortunate, just like Chairman Reynolds when he oversees the whole city of Huntsville's budget and is the manager of the city and oversees that, and he works that budget. We're fortunate to have him. So we're very blessed to have the people we got in those positions.
In the Senate, education will take center stage this week. The Education Trust Fund budget is scheduled to be in committee on Wednesday, and then if reported out successfully, on the Senate floor by Thursday. It will be accompanied by the much-anticipated RAISE Act, which would create a new student funding formula aimed at better supporting students in poverty, English language learners, gifted students, and those with special needs. Senator Arthur Orr, who chairs that Senate Education Budget Committee, spoke to reporters to preview what's ahead.
We'll be on the floor for sure on Thursday, to be determined whether we have a 2-day or 3-day work week next week. But we do know Thursday will be the day that the educational budget will be on the floor. The big ticket item that you're going to see next week is the bill that will institute the student-based funding formula, and we're calling it the RAISE Act, R-A-I-S-E, and it will better support our public schools for children in poverty, children that are English language learners, children that are gifted, and for those that have special educational needs. It'll address those 4 buckets of students and give schools the additional resources that to educate those children with, because the studies have shown that for those children, it requires additional resources. This is the hybrid model. You'll see the foundation program remaining intact, and this is coming on top of that particular funding out of the foundation.
A reminder today from the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. There's only 1 month remaining until requirements for STAR ID will go into effect. STAR ID, sometimes referred to as Real ID, is an identification program enacted back in 2005 that is intended to enhance the security of state-issue IDs. The biggest impact is that those wanting to fly domestically won't be able to check in with an old driver's license that isn't a STAR ID starting on May 7th. It's easy to upgrade to a Star ID, and you can do it locally. In fact, you can make an appointment through ALEA's website at alea.gov. You will need other forms of identification when you go. You'll need to prove your date of birth, which you can do with a valid passport, a birth certificate, or other immigration forms. You'll need to prove your Social Security number with a Social Security card itself, a military ID, or a W-2 tax stub. And you'll need to verify your physical address, either through a valid driver's license, maybe a lease agreement, or even a utility bill. The state of Alabama will host the 2025 World Police and Fire Games. It's an Olympic-style competition with thousands of first responder athletes throughout the world. This includes law enforcement, firefighters, and other officers from corrections, probation, and immigration, competing in as many as 60 sports. Governor Ivey made the announcement recently at the state capitol.
From June 27 to July 6 in Birmingham, Alabama will host over 8,500 athletes from more than 70 countries. This is a global salute to the law enforcement officers, firefighters, paramedics, and every other type of first responder in between who keeps our communities safe around the world. These brave men and women give their all, and I'm proud that our state gets to honor them this way. Birmingham is ready. Alabama is ready. These games will bring $65 million in economic impact, filling our hotels, packing our restaurants, and supporting our local businesses.
We'll be right back with tonight's guests.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts. Keep up with what's happening with Capital Journal.
The Alabama Department of Archives and History was founded in 1901, becoming the nation's first publicly funded independent state archives agency. The archives identifies, preserves, and makes accessible records and artifacts of enduring historical value to the state. Thomas Owen founded the agency and served as its first director. He was succeeded by his wife, Marie Bankhead Owen, who headed the archives for 35 years and was the second woman to lead a state agency.
Welcome back to Capital Journal. Joining me next is Cam Ward, Director of the Alabama Bureau of Pardons and Parole. Cam, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me back, Todd.
Lots to talk about. I want to get into the recent graduation from your Perry County facility up there at the Prep Center. But kind of as a part of that as well, I know that April is Second Chance Month, not just here in Alabama, but nationally. Talk about Second Chance Month and what its significance is.
Second Chance Month was started by George W. Bush when he was president. It was the Second Chance Act and dealt with people who were formerly incarcerated. What can we do to get them back on their feet to make sure they don't commit a crime again? It has to be renewed every year, and it has been by every single president since George W. Bush, and I expect it will be again this year by President Trump. President Trump actually trumpeted it during his first term about how great of a program it was, and we expect him to do the same thing again this time.
And I know we've got some similar legislation here in the state of Alabama. We'll get to that, but talk to me about this recent graduation from the Prep Center there in Perry County. Saw some images and everything. It's a legit graduation, caps and gowns. I know you spoke at it. Talk about what this Prep Center does and what these graduates can look forward to.
Well, so far, going all the way up until now, the last 2.5 years that it's been open, we've had over 340 graduates. And of the 340 graduates, they have to go through intensive substance abuse treatment. They have to go through mental health treatment. We have job training, GED programming, helping you get your license and ID back. But it's intensive and it's residential, so you're confined to that facility. But over 340 people have gone through it, and of them, we've not had a single person go back to jail or prison.
Not a one.
Not a one. And I tell everybody that because recidivism is kind of my mark of, are we succeeding or not? Well, recidivism in Alabama, do you go back to prison within 3 years of being incarcerated? You're let out 3 years later, have you gone back? In Alabama, our numbers are 29%. We were at 34% just 4 years ago, so those numbers are going down. It's great, but that center is a 0% recidivism rate facility. So I want to replicate it. And to that end, we've had states from around the country. You and I briefly missed each other in Washington last week, but we were talking with a congressional delegation, and we've had other states reach out and say, we want to mimic what you guys are doing, because there's a lot of states where the recidivism rates are a lot higher than ours, including our neighbors like Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Georgia.
Well, okay, that's zero. Now, again, it's only been around since 2022. And 340 is small compared to the amount, end of sentence each year and everything from our prisons. But that tells the story. 0%. That tells the story of what it takes to actually end that recidivism in terms of job training, drug treatment, mental health. I mean, that's
absolutely. And we couldn't do this, but we couldn't do this without our partners. It's not just us. Ingram State Technical College provides a lot of the job training and the GED and educational programming. The business community, we're looking at 17 different companies and organizations that have now signed up to say, Cam, we want to hire people and we want to train them. We want to help you train them. So having these partners, Department of Mental Health, coming in and help us find good contractors that can handle the mental health treatment. Having these partners without having to pass a new law. I mean, we passed the law on this in 2021, the legislature did, and now we have this wonderful program that other states, for once Alabama's leading the way in something, and I think we should take pride in that, but also look at ways down the road we can expand on it with the least amount of cost, because at the end of the day, it is public safety. It's public safety 101. If you get that treatment you need, you get that evaluation, determine what your needs are, we can use that in a manner to make sure you don't go back to prison and commit a crime.
So, the alternative, unfortunately, is end of sentence with not a lot of all that, right? And so that's where you do get that 29% reoffending somehow.
Yep, you do. So what we have, we call it EOS. We have all these acronyms in state government, but at EOS, you end a sentence. There is no supervision. You walk out the door, you get a check. Odds most likely are you're going to commit a crime again. If you're on some sort of parole where you are supervised and forced to go into a programming, it works. It really does, and I've seen it firsthand. I had my doubts. Pardon parole is a carrot and stick. There's a stick in that if you reoffend, guess what? We're going to put you back in prison.
They know that.
You break the law, you get punished, and you should be. But there's also a carrot approach. If you have a substance abuse issue, a mental health issue, and we can treat that and help you get it addressed so that you can be a functioning member of society, I think everybody in Alabama would want that to be a goal.
Again, going back to kind of the optics of it, it's a legit graduation ceremony. The caps, the gowns, the graduation speech, the song, the pomp and circumstance song that plays. And it just struck me, that's got to be a difference maker to those individuals, right? They're, commencing, a sentence and or finishing a sentence. They're commencing a new life. Talk about that difference that it makes, treating it like the way you do, and, maybe some feedback from those who have gone through it and the difference that treating it like that really makes.
Well, you have some people who in their life, they grew up with a broken family. A lot of them have families that had drug addiction, poverty, and it was just, they were never going to make it. The odds were against them. But they also never had anyone look them in the eye and say, you did a good job. You did something right. Their whole life's been negativity. And half the time, and I'm not trying to be, soft and squishy here, but I would say this: if you have a drug-induced family or mental illness in your family, the odds are you're going to follow down that same path. And that's what they did, to have somebody come up and say, you know what, I believe in you, you're going to make it. You're going to do a good job. You're not going to hurt somebody again. You're going to follow the law. You're going to do well, and you're going to be clean. It makes a difference. A good paying job means they pay taxes. they're not on the government rolls, they're not on welfare, and guess what? They're not going to hurt somebody. So that's what I think the success of looking at that ceremony and seeing that look on their face, knowing they're going to make it.
It's interesting because, you know, in politics, and you've been in plenty of politics, elected politics, maybe you will again, who knows. But the easiest thing in the world it can be is to be tough on crime, especially in moments like, you know, the last couple of years and the last several years really where people have been worried about crime. Easiest thing to do is say, lock them up, throw away the key, because you're not going to lose many votes that way. It's tougher to be smart on crime. And I wondered if I could ask you kind of the difference about that, because y'all have to do it from a programmatic standpoint, and it's not all, you know, electoral votes and things like that. So talk about being smart on crime with some of these policies, knowing that end of sentence is coming and knowing that the goal is to have them not come back.
Yeah, and it is tough, and it's tough on our lawmakers. You know, the climate changes every year on criminal justice, but I will say this, I respect the predicament they're in, because I agree. I mean, people want a solution to crime. I mean, here in Montgomery, we've seen it. They want a solution. My solution is not the give-all. I mean, it's not going to solve everything. My solution is when they come out, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they don't go back. Now, if they break the law again, they're going to go back to prison. But at the end of the day, you want to be smart on crime. Being smart means making sure they have the tools so they don't go back. And I will say, my conversations you and I were talking about, state of Arkansas had a conversation with some legislators and cabinet members for the governor. And one of the things that struck me was their recidivism rates, ours at 29%, they're at 47% recidivism rate. And they have also a problem with they're trying to build $1 billion prison. They're in the same situation we're in.
So we're not alone.
And they're in this, and they called and said, we got to have ideas on how to reduce recidivism. So it's not just Alabama that deals with this. Other states are seeing it. I'm just glad to see that we're on the front line and being a role model to help them figure out that pathway to go forward.
You've had some legislative help on that along the way too, and I wanted to ask you while we're here in the middle of the legislative session, are there bills y'all are advocating for, budget items that you're looking at? Tell about your last couple of weeks of session.
One, we think, first of all, we can increase our services on reentry, and we ask for a level funded budget to do it. We think we can do it by moving resources around, getting rid of programs that don't work, putting it toward programs that do. I annually ask for outside groups to come in and audit us and tell us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong in our programming so that we can use our resources best. Second, we're looking at a bill that deals with occupational licensure. One of the things I've seen is a lot of people coming out of prison, they work hard, they get a job certificate, they get all the skills needed, but we have government occupational licensure boards that automatically deny them because they went to prison for any reason. Now, I get it. If you're a child molester, you shouldn't work in a daycare. That should be, and it should be the norm, and it is under this bill. But what this bill says is you can deny license, and no business has to hire anybody they don't want to hire, but you cannot deny them just because they've been to prison. That gives them a chance at least to demonstrate their skills, and then the company can decide if they want to hire somebody or not. It's totally up to the company. So
They can't blame it on a rule from the agency board.
But it shouldn't be a arbitrary government rule. It should be left to the private sector and let the companies decide if they want to hire somebody or not some obscure government board.
What's the business community say about that?
The business community have been fantastic partners. Had it not been for them, we wouldn't have gotten this far on the bill. And I'm very thankful to the various, we talked about this for a year with them, worked out some of their concerns, and without the business community, this wouldn't be possible, and I'm very thankful for their support.
Well, it tells you a lot about, their involvement in it. We're out of time. Thanks again. I'm sure we'll see you again, but good luck with the last half of the session.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page.
Alabama Public Television is your place for quality educational services. Free professional development for educators and child care providers. Access to free curriculum-aligned videos, lesson plans, and instructional resources with PBS Learning Media. And all the PBS Kids programs parents know and trust. Learn something new every day with Alabama Public Television. Visit us at aptv.org/education to learn more.
Welcome back to Capital Journal. Joining me next is Matthew Capps, Director of Alabama State Parks. Mr. Director, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this is a breath of fresh air. We do politics here in the middle of the session, so I wish we could all be in a state park right now. But I wanted to start with asking, I mean, it's kind of spring break time. You've had probably a couple of really busy weeks. Does it really pick up in the spring break weeks?
Absolutely. So right now we're in the throes of spring break, and so as you can imagine, Gulf State Park is, very overwhelmed right now, and so but we also have beaches at other locations, and so we're trying to drive people to Oak Mountain and all the other parks that have beaches and lakes for people to enjoy.
It's a beautiful time to be out in nature and enjoying some of our state parks, and I think people forget sometimes just how many beautiful state parks are out there within driving distance a lot of times, and so I want to get to that in a minute. But since we are in the State House and it is a legislative session, it wasn't too long ago that lawmakers and eventually voters approved this $80 million bond issue. It was meant to, for improvements at state parks and historical sites. What kind of projects have y'all undertaken to do those improvements?
Well, we have projects actively right now all over the entire state. Some of the key projects that we really want to focus in on right now is at Gulf State Park. We're building another 100 campsites at the old golf course. So that's somewhere in the ballpark of $28 million, probably going to be due to be completed first of next year. Another project is Lake Lorraine up in Tuscaloosa area. That part just needed a total remodel. So we've kind of just starting from scratch and redoing that. Again, that project is around $18 million. Okay. And so, again, look for that one to be completed around Q1 of next year. But again, that's just to make everything much more larger campsites, to new, improved access to the lake, just a total remodel of the day use area as well. And another one that we're really proud about, kind of our signature bond piece, is the Chiha Lodge. So that lodge was in aging infrastructure for sure, and we needed to remodel it. So what we ended up doing is we demoed the existing lodge, and we've moved everything kind of towards where the restaurant used to be. And so now everything's going to have bluffside views. All the rooms, it's a 32-room lodge. It'll be a boutique type style, which means it's just smaller, more intimate areas. We'll have like a bistro, conference area, small conference area, and a rooftop lounge and bar. So
that's perfect for the mountaintop there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And so Jeff did some reporting a couple of weeks ago on not just Chiha, but he included some images. Really beautiful, and the way the architecture is, it kind of fits into the mountain. Into the woods. It's not, I don't know, gaudy or some kind of modern thing. It's kind of rustic looking.
Yes, so it still is modern, but it is we've used natural elements. So one thing that we're really proud about is that we're using Alabama trees to make these to make the lodge, and so it will all have exposed timber, so exposed wood, and it's going to be beautiful. I think that it's like CCC. So this part, Chiha, was built by the men and the women from the Great Depression, and so you typically see all the stone structures that have been there since the 60s. Well, now if the CCC were building it, they're going to build modern style architecture, and so it's a little bit modern, but it's natural materials. It'll blend in nicely with the mountain. Yeah,
it certainly looks like that. I want to ask you, you recently announced the promotion of Chad Davis. Now that's a familiar name around conservation circles. What's his new role in the organization?
So Chad was recently our district regional manager for the Northwest District. So he was at Joe Wheeler State Park, and he manages Montesano to Lurleen and the two cave parks. And so now we've recently been able to promote Chad to deputy director. So he filled my role as I got promoted to director. So he's first couple of days in office right now in Montgomery, and just already hitting the ground running because he's been here in the system for 20 years.
Well, good for him. That's well deserved.
Absolutely.
Now, I said it was spring break, but summer will be here before we know it. And I know families are planning trips and vacations. How can people best find out how to take advantage of our state parks? I guess is there a website and things like
Certainly. That? Certainly. So Alabama State Parks, you can just Google that, but it's alapark.com. Our reservations page is brand new. If you're an Alabama resident, you can actually enter in your zip code and book 13 months out if you really wanted to do that. So that just gives Alabama residents an advantage on pricing and first available. But yeah, come on and check us out. Find us on Facebook. That's a lot of like pertinent information that's happening daily. So yeah, check us out.
Well, I have to say, y'all have really done incredible work in terms of just, I don't know, bringing our state parks really into the modern era. It's not like it was when I was growing up. It's a really great quality experience, and so kudos to you and your team. And I'll look forward to visiting a couple of state parks this time around. What we'd love to do is bring Capital Journal to Mount Cheaha when that project's finished.
Absolutely, we'd love to have you there.
That'd be great. Well, Matt, thanks again for coming on the show, and good luck with the summer months.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
Cheaha Mountain, often called Mount Cheaha, is the highest natural point in Alabama at 2,407 feet above sea level. It is located in north-central Alabama in Cheaha State Park, surrounded by the Talladega National Forest in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. This dramatic landscape gets its name from the Creek Indian name for the mountain, Chaha, meaning high place.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow, right here on Alabama Public Television. For our Capital Journal team, I'm Todd Stacy. We'll see you next time.